In this video, we're taking a look at one of the classic Lemax Spooky Town town pieces, the Blood Bank. Guys, what's up? It is Doug, and welcome to another edition of Spooky Villages. And today, I have the classic Lemax Spooky Town piece from 2005. That's when it was introduced, and it retired in 2018. Very, very long production run for this piece. But I have the Blood Bank. This is a classic, and again, it came out in 2005. Quick once around here on the box, and I wanted to give a big thank you to my friend Kelly, as I talked about in the last video. She actually loaned me a bunch of classic pieces that she has to do some reviews of that I've never talked about on the channel here, to kind of get me by while I'm waiting for a shipment of new buildings to come in, which has been delayed. So talking about this one, and I've got a few more coming after that. So really quick here too, I'm not going to do a full unboxing. I just wanted to show inside here the box. This has the older style styrofoam, of course, and I do love the look of these old boxes too. It's just fun to see the old art and everything like that. So all right, let's get into the Blood Bank. So here is the Blood Bank, guys, out of the box. Now, just a minute here, I'm going to actually get behind the camera and point out a couple things I wanted to talk about here. And I tried to get all of the foam pieces off of it. That's the thing for you newer folks. The older, the Lemax boxes that had the styrofoam protector, sometimes there's little bits of styrofoam that gets kind of wedged in a bunch of places, and it's tough to get out sometimes. Sometimes you miss it even. So I feel like I'm just constantly always getting styrofoam out of pieces. So let's do a once around here. And so I have to say here, I'm going to be pretty critical of this piece. And before I do that, something that, that whenever I wanted to borrow this from Kelly, she warned me. She goes, hey, just so you know, mine is pretty loud, and it's got a couple things that are a little goofy with it. She got it back in 2009 from a dealer, and she said that, this is when she was a newer collector. Frankly, she probably would have sent it back. She said if she knew better, but she didn't. And you know what? I think that's great. Because this is going to be fun to talk about, to kind of go to classic piece, because normally when I have the classic pieces, and this is rightfully, like, normally it's gushing about them, the classic pieces are awesome, and there is some really cool stuff here, but I think this is going to show that, maybe everything back in the day, wasn't as good always as, some longtime collectors, as we'll talk about sometime. So anyways, let's talk about the Blood Bank here really quick on this. The theming of it. This is actually, it's kind of a dark, macabre a theme here, with also that's a little bit silly. That's how a lot of the classic Lemax Spooky Town pieces were, and I really like when Lemax is doing that. This one I don't think works as well. We'll talk about that here in just a minute, but the main thing you have here, I'll show you when it's animated, but over here you have, it looks like some guys in chains, and the soundtrack kind of backs this up too. You have the guys in chains here, and they are the ones who are getting the blood drawn from them. And over here, rotating around, we have some monsters, and they have, big jugs of blood, basically. So they are making the deposits. They are making withdrawals, which, again, given the subject matter here, it's pretty funny, and it's dark humor, and I really like that. Also, thematically here, let me pull it back here a little bit. I think the actual design of the building is pretty well. The one thing, like, it looks, it looks like kind of an old-timey bank. I could see that. That's what I mean by it. You have this clock up here. I like some of the little details in the signs. The graveyard up here is a little odd, just because, I mean, I get it. It's, it's a Halloween-themed thing, and graveyards are in, but I don't know that it really goes with it, I guess. I guess if it's a dark, the kind of a macabre thing, a macabre building and theme, that it kind of works with it. But anyways, the graveyard just kind of seems like it's just kind of put in there. But let me get behind the camera really quick here, and I'll point out some things here with this building particularly. Okay, so something to note here. You can see here, look how far this is off. You can actually see the gears under there. This piece, when it was produced, it had to have had the production off. I've not seen any of these, a blood bank in person before, but I'm pretty sure they're not like that, to where it's like the mold is off. It looks like there might be a little bit of a piece, sorry here, the focus is not wanting to play very nice here, but it looks like a little bit of a piece chipped there. But for the most part, it looks kind of like it's just some funky molding on it. It doesn't look chipped. I could be wrong on that, but that's what it looks like. We also here, if you look here on the front, there's some, you know, some paint chips and everything, and Kelly says that it was actually like that when she got it. So there's also a lot of glue here that you can see when it rotates. There's, well, actually over here too. You know, a lot of the fit and finish on the older Spooky Town pieces is pretty incredible. This one is not one of those pieces though, at least not that one here. You see my dog here, I have a puppy who's off to the side here, and she apparently agrees with that assessment. Okay, very quick puppy break here. This is Poppy. She is, right now, she's about 10 months old. We've had her for a couple months. She is a rescue pit bull. She is extremely sweet, and she is always off to the side as I'm doing reviews here down in my workshop. She loves to make her opinion known. I normally have to edit that out though. So this is Poppy. So really quick here, I did want to talk about the sign because I think this is really funny. The keep vault at body temperature. Of course, there's blood in there. And this sign right here, our customers stick their neck out. It's cute. I like those little details. Okay, a detail that I really like here. First off, I like that you have the, it looks like a dried resin or something that's in there, but it actually looks liquid. The blood tanks right there. And then I really like the ATM on the side here. And it's a funny detail that it says, insert arm for deposit, so they can take your blood. I love that kind of thing. There are a lot of little fun details here, and also the top here, the tanks, the type A and type O, the different tanks there that hold the different blood. I do like that. One last thing here, the inside or the back of this building here, there's been some that are like this, but this one is very, very extreme. The hard to see here probably on camera, but the back is extremely bowed in like that, which you know, I'm not aware of another building that's that extreme, that the mold has been that bowed in like that. It kind of gives it a storybook look, and structurally the building seems fine, but it's just something interesting to talk about. And I thought this would be fun. Lemax has posted the concept art of this piece, and you can see here that you know, the end is fairly close. It looks like the vampire on the top, though, I'm assuming from the way it shaded there, that was supposed to be animated, but the one, at least the one here, it is not animated. And then they also lost all the bats and stuff on top, which to me, that makes sense. I don't think they were really needed on the top like that. But I always love seeing the concept art and then seeing what the produced part, or the produced piece looks like after the fact. So here you can see the blood bank lit up, guys. Now, at the end, I do want to play the soundtrack here, and I just think it's pertinent to note here. The soundtrack on it is okay. I mean, it's kind of a, you know, it's a classic one of the era, but you can't really hear the soundtrack very well because this piece is insanely loud. And that's just how it was. This one here, and there are other pieces of the era, the RIP Mausoleum is another one. They are so loud that they are, you know, it's distracting when you display them. So just FYI, I wanted to talk about that, not forget about that whenever I do the lights and sound at the end here. But the lights and sound portion of it, though, actually, I think it's lit up pretty good for what it is, at least the bottom of the building. My issue is at the top. The sign is not appropriately lit up, which I've noticed on some of the older Lemax Spooky Town buildings. This is something I've only kind of recently more known because I look for that. The sign isn't, you know, the sign on a lot of the, or the name, I guess, not just necessarily the sign, on some of the older buildings is not lit that well. And so the top of this building, I think, really could be lit better. And if I feel like if this came out, you know, nowadays, Lemax does a pretty good job with that. And they probably would have done that. Same with the clock as well there. It's just hidden, basically. You know, the color of it makes it a little more visible because it's like that orange-ish. It kind of looks like it's lit, but it's actually not lit. That's just how it looks kind of with the coloring on it. So that's the big thing on it. The lighting could be better on it. You know, I think it's okay, though. It's not, you know, terribly lit or anything like that. You can clearly see the characters that are moving around there. So theming wise, I mean, this is a town building. This is one of the classic Lemax Spooky Town buildings. You know, I think it works much better in a monster town just because of what it is. Of course, it's, you know, you have monsters here that are taking blood out, and you have people in chains that are, you know, being forced to give the blood. But you know, you could also put it in a normal town and it'd be okay. You just don't think about that too hard. But this is one of the classic Lemax Spooky Town buildings. You know, kind of one last thing I'll say here before we get to you know, my final thoughts, and then the show it with the actual the lights and the sound. Is that the lighting on this one? I feel like this is one, if it was designed modern day, there would probably be a lot more red on it. And that would pretty much be the primary color that it would just be bathed in. And I think that actually for what this is, I think that would work a lot better. The whole, you know, the whole blood theme. So final thoughts on the blood bank here, guys. You know, this is fun to look at something like this, which, you know, I'm not really that big of a fan of this building, if you couldn't tell. But I'm very glad that I got my hands on it and to actually see it and talk about it, because, you know, normally whenever talking about the old buildings, there are so many great old Lemax Spooky Town buildings that, you know, seeing one that doesn't hit the mark, and frankly, though, this one looks like one, this is probably a pretty extreme example of, you know, with all the defects it kind of has, that it was even, this one made it through production, because it's got the loud motor, which, you know, that's not that uncommon for some in that time. But there's a lot of fit and finish issues on this one, including, you know, like the molding up here, that it looks like didn't, you know, it wasn't a good one that got through the factory that day. But I think it's interesting to talk about because, you know, not everything back then that we all, and myself included, longtime collectors talk about from that era. You know, we like to kind of talk about how everything was great from back then. But this is kind of a good reminder that no, not everything was great back then. At least it wasn't all great. There's plenty of it. And actually, for the next couple videos that I'm going to be talking about here, some other classic pieces, they are some truly amazing pieces, and I'm really excited to talk about that. But I thought this was going to be fun to talk about the blood bank, because Kelly warned me whenever I asked, hey, do you have a blood bank? She's like, hey, there's some issues with mine, just FYI. And I actually thought that would make it more interesting to talk about. So hopefully you all enjoyed that. And you know what? If you like the blood bank, I'm not meaning to just crap all over it. There's still a lot of fun with this piece. And as far as a town piece goes, it's one of the classic Lemax Spooky Town pieces. So I get it. But yeah, so I guess that's my thoughts on it. Looking forward to having some fun with more of these classic reviews coming up here soon. You know, speaking of the next review here that I'm going to be doing, I don't have a real tease for it, other than it is one of the darkest pieces that Lemax has ever put out, and I'm very excited to talk about that. So thank you all so much for the support. Here's the blood bank with lights and sound.